I'll go ahead and start off with my first quote. It says, making a short, deft movement, Tom Buchanan broke her nose with his open hand.
Oh, I had that quote too.
Wow. It just gives us a lot of insight into the character of Tom and how he's just like violent, kind of, I guess.
And
So that's just kind of
abusive.
what I put. Yeah, and abusive.
Yeah, I think earlier in the book he like described him as having like a cruel body.
He lets his emotions get the best of him.
Yeah. Do you guys have any other quotes?
Yeah, I had one. There's always a halt there of at least a minute, and it was because of this that I first met Tom Buchanan's mistress. So, because it says first met, we're gonna assume that she's probably gonna come back and be a recurring character.
Ooh, some
and maybe,
foreshadowing.
like be a source of conflict.
That's interesting. So we kind of really find out how bad of a person Tom is. He's beating his wife. He has that mistress. Not really beating him. He just punched him in the nose, or punched what was her face? Not his wife. Myrtle. That's who it was.
His mistress.
His mistress.
He
So
was.
if he's even being violent to his mistress,
Yeah.
what does that mean he's doing to Daisy?
I put in there that quote, obviously, Daisy, 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 shouted Miss Wilson. I'll say it whenever I want to. Daisy, day. Making a short left movement, Tom broke her nose with his open hand. I wrote, question. Why do the men and Tom treat the woman so poorly in the book? What is their motive behind it in treating women like objects?
Well, also this is kind of like it's an older book, so back in the time, it was less of a big deal as it is now. Because hitting a woman now, it's like it's big crime, you go to jail. But back then, it was as bad as it is. Women weren't seen as important as guys, so they just and especially with money.
Treating girls that way.
Yeah.
What?
It's really only
Well, I mean, like, we haven't met the other characters, but Tom, like, I'm saying, Tom treats him so badly that it's kind of just like the perspective of.
Maybe he just feels as he's rich, he can do whatever he wants.
But everybody's rich in the book,
Yeah.
so maybe it means
Maybe everyone
like
else.
Nick. Yeah, Nick's a good dude. I like that.
Maybe it's kind of foreshadowing what other people are like too.
That's a very good point.
Yeah.
I like that. You got something for us, Jack?
Not really.
No?
I had Parker's one and then the mistress one that you said. Or
Okay.
someone said.
Well, also adding on to like the respect for women, like are talking about his mistress, like in the whole thing, like he talked about it like it was like normal. He never had any like condemning like speech about it. So I think that also adds on to like how little respect they had for him.
I had a reflection on the chapter, and I said, in this book, and in this chapter, it kind of sums up the fakeness we see from the people in this book. It's almost like they are all putting on a mask and covering up who they really are. I feel like there's a lot of like secrets, like you were saying about Daisy, that is going on behind the scenes that we just don't really understand yet. Like why Tom's so abusive, what happened to him that makes him this way, and kind of just like, and I also put like a connection too to that, where like sometimes in our lives, like we'll put on a mask, and a lot of the time when let's say someone's being rude to someone else, you don't really know what's going on with them that kind of makes them act out in that specific way. So I think that there's a lot of backstory that we don't really understand what's going on with Daisy and with Tom yet.
One thing I've kind of been getting from this book is maybe the writer F. Scott Fitzgerald kind of has like a distaste for wealthy people, or just kind of is trying to paint a picture of people with money or snobby and they think they can do whatever they want. They just punch whoever, they all have mistresses, they all are mean to their wives, they all just did it for their money. Maybe that's kind of like his inspiration for adding all this in, it's because it's opening up a story and it's just kind of giving his opinion, but subtly. That's what I'm seeing. I want to say another quote I have. This is on page 39. It says, I married him because I thought he was a gentleman. I thought he knew something about breeding, but he wasn't fit to lift my shoe.
What kind of like,
It's like kind of why, sometimes like I was kind of asking the question like, why would she even marry him? And that kind of answered my question. So I wrote it down.
Was that the mother?
I forget. I'd have to have my
I married him because he's fun.
Wait, because Myrtle married somebody else.
yeah, Myrtle's married to,
Wilson.
yeah, Mr.
I
Wilson.
forget who said that.
Aren't they, I'm not sure if this is who was talking, but like they said they wish they had married the other person.
Yeah, like they wish they had married the other person.
It was Myrtle that said that, yeah.
Yeah, they went to like the adult sex place or something, and then they were like all there and they all started drinking, and then you kind of don't really understand what's going on. Like they're all getting drunk, and they say a lot of stuff like about Tom saying that he would rather marry someone, and then Mr. Wilson is saying that he would rather marry someone, and it just was like a really weird circumstance of what was happening.
Yeah.
In the one quote where Tom's talking to the guy about selling his car, you can see that Tom doesn't treat guys well either when they're poorer than him because of the way he talks to him. Like, oh, your mechanic doesn't work very fast, and then the guy's like, or then Tom's like, well, if you don't think he works fast, then I can just ask somebody else. And the guy was like, oh no, I'm so sorry. And so yeah, so he doesn't only treat women bad, he also treats guys bad.
Again, this is kind of like, maybe F. Scott Fitzgerald hates rich people because they think they can do whatever they want. Oh, you're not doing good enough, I'll pay someone else. I got enough money, I can do whatever I want. I'm too good for you, I'm higher than you, because you're a worker and I'm a rich person. And I kind of saw this chapter, he's really kind of opening up a lot of storylines that you can carry throughout the book. With the, like how you said, maybe the mistress will be introduced later. And then with breaking, then punching her in the face and the hand or whatever.
Let me ask this question for you guys. How do you think the movie compares to the book so far?
Well, I missed most of the movie.
Good.
Yeah, I haven't really seen much of it yet.
The movie shows Gatsby more than the book does.
What do you mean it shows Gatsby more than the book does?
If you see his hand and then you see him at the top.
Oh.
We haven't.
Oh, hey Gabe, look, bad dog.
Ethan, how do you like the
that guy.
movie compared to the
I
book
think
so
Caleb
far?
just falls to you.
Alright, they start out in is that like a psychiatrist or something?
Yeah, it seemed like it was some sort of
Instead of-
doctor that he was reflecting.
Instead of just writing it down.
I really like how it's kind of like how the movie is Nick's like writing a book, and like you can tell like throughout the movie so far that it's like the book is like really well done because it's really cool how like he's telling a story and it's like going back into the past and it's showing us all the things that are gonna happen, and then like you can tell that then they're in the present and then he's gonna show us more in the future. Like I like how the book's like he's talking and you're hearing like his side of the story, and like Mr. Vi said to like think of him as the author of the book. Like it's really, even in the movie, I think it's so far been really well done.
So you can tell that the movie was off of the book without
Yeah.
hearing about it before.
Yeah, so far I think they've done a really good job. And also like the way that the book described Daisy, like she's a lot like that in the movie so far too. Like she's,
Even her voice is kind of like how you would expect.
yeah, it's like really,
Not quite Scarlett Johansson, but
yeah.
close.
But Tom's not as athletic as what made him seem, or like he doesn't look as athletic
Yeah.
in that movie.
Yeah.
Dare you say that about Zorro?
He's like weak, but he was
Do you have any more?
Jack, what's your third point? Or article?
No, I had, everyone said all mine.
Oh. What was your analysis on this? Was it different or was
No.
it similar?
Almost the exact same.
Do you have another one?
Yeah, well, the quote was, the sister Catherine was a slender, worldly girl of about 30 with a solid, sticky bob of red hair and a complexion powdered white. So I was just saying, like, there's a connection to, like, history, like, basically, like a flapper. So we can, like, assume, like, that's true, like, her view, like, she wants to live each day to the fullest and stuff, so that might influence her actions in the future.
How long does this have to be?
You got about 3 minutes.
3 more minutes. Okay, we can talk for 3 minutes.
So far, like, what do you think is the main difference between, like, the two eggs? Like, between the west egg and the east egg? Like, what do you think is, like, so far in the book, how are the two, like, very different? How are they similar?
Well, they're both rich.
Yeah.
That's obvious.
You think that the west egg would be more snobby than the east egg because the east egg actually had to work for what they have?
Yeah. It almost feels like we don't really know anything about the east egg yet.
Uh-huh.
Well, because we haven't been introduced
Yeah,
to
it's,
yet.
it's chapter 2.
I think F. Scott Fitzgerald's making more of a point to like snobby rich people are people who have inherited it, and then once you meet Gatsby who actually had to work for it, it'll be different.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that. So I don't know if F. Scott Fitzgerald was rich, but it kind of sounds like he had to work for it if he was.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, he was because he wrote great
I think he's trying to prove a specific point. Like, I think that there's a motive between why he's, like I said, in the book, you don't really know Tom's backstory. We don't really know, like, I'm sure that there's stories on Scott Fitzgerald, but there's some specific reason why he has the motive to write a book about, like, you know, about these rich people. Because, I mean, there's a lot of parts of it that are almost unrealistic. Like, these, like, really wealthy people who, like, don't have to work for it, almost like they're inheriting money. It just is. I just think that there's something that happened in his life that made him feel, you know, motivated to write about this specifically.
Because Tom could be someone that F. Scott Fitzgerald knows, and he's just trying to write him into the book.
Yeah.
That's pretty common in a lot of books.
There is a chance that, like, Nick is kind of like himself, like where he, you know, he's a writer and he kind of started from the bottom, and maybe his surroundings were a bunch of really wealthy people, and he's like writing about how he worked for it and how he became an author. Like, I almost feel like you see like the connection between Scott Fitzgerald and Nick in the book, because he's telling the story and so is Nick, so they're both.
Well, that's kind of hard to say because I'm pretty sure all of us don't know much about F. Scott Fitzgerald. So
Yeah.
it's kind of just like a shot in the dark.
Yeah, it's just like my opinion.
Theory.
Yeah, like my theory on